Hey Neppers, it's me, Wild Neptune. Today, looking at the upcoming Christy Speciality change. If you'd like something like this, or just want to support the channel, a like, comment, and subscription are always appreciated. Thanks you for all the support, and now, let's get going. Now, before we jump into the Specialty change overview, I do want to go over my stats and her abilities here to give you a better understanding on what her SC is going to do or not do for her. So, going over gear right here, you see nothing really spectacular. Some of it is pretty good gear, some of it is pretty average or below average, I would say, but perfectly okay for a night like this, in my opinion. And the stat line right here will give you a little bit of an idea on what the stats will be after her SC actually comes to fruition. Also, her skills, her S1, provoke chance when she attacks. Her S3 is a non-attack skill, which gives her a defense buff and the party and attack buff. Also heals her for a little bit. This is a skill that's getting upgraded. I will see the upgrade when we go into the overview. And her S2 is her signature, which gives 50% of her ER to the ally in the back row. And when she's attacked, she boosts herself and the ally in the back row by 20% after the skill ups, of course. Worth noting that the ER has to show up on the character sheet to count. So something like Bastion, which gives it ER and everybody else ER too, does not show up in the character sheet, so it does not actually give the back row the bonus ER. It has to be on the stat page in order to count. But this is still probably the best slot artifact, I would say, right now. So that's just what people are using at the moment. Anyway, let's actually jump into the Specialty change and see what's going on there.
The key to victory is simple. Diligent preparation and review. Thank you for the support. I'll try my best.
Alright, very cute animation there. In terms of design goes, I really like her design overall. She's always been one of my favorite 3 stars in the game. Very cute, definitely. But we're not here to talk about her art design, we're here to talk about her kit, and if I think it'll be decent, at least in World Arena, maybe other things too. So let's get going into that. Like I said, her S3 is the one that's getting changed, and she's getting a effectiveness boost too. Now why is a unit with only 1 debuff on her S1 getting an effectiveness boost? That's a very good question. So let's go into her runes now. And the first 3, we have her stat runes. So Trust, Speed, and Wedge. That's a lot of effectiveness. This adds up to 35%, plus the 50 that she gets from her effectiveness boost. That's 85 bonus effectiveness. And her, even though yes, her effectiveness buff can be stripped off, this is probably going to be uncommon to happen in most fights and in most builds. So 85 bonus, plus her whatever she had just on her naturally from gear and stuff like that, you'll probably reach 100 to 120-ish, which is enough effectiveness to provoke most knights in the game and basically all DPS, and most things not running effectiveness as a standard thing. So just not Destina's, probably not ER, AOL's, not made, stuff like that. Also, AOL's probably 70% of the time you'll get to provoke on them too, which is not that bad. And she is also getting 5 speed, which is pretty important because her base speed is really low, and she definitely wants more speed to take more turns to abuse some of her other effects. You will notice though that there is no health and no defense here, so her base health and defense are going to stay the same, which is pretty unfortunate because those are not that great. At least her health isn't. Going now to her other runes here, we have increased defense for the ally in the back row by 15%, which is actually pretty good. This is a lot of defense basically for free. And we also have a built-in Aureus for the back row too, so 20% damage share, which sounds okay on paper because it does mean you can run another artifact on her. Let's be fair here though. Nobody was running Christy on Aureus anyway. They were always running Bastion. Like I said, Bastion doesn't add to the ER she gives to the back row. It adds to her ER, and the artifact Bastion obviously does also add to the back row. However, some people maybe run things like, say, the other Bastion, Bastion of Pelusia. I guess both Bastions are used on her sometimes. So, that's really it, right? Another thing too is that, like something like Pylus, if she's picked, maybe she's picked as like a support knight instead, where you pick her and another knight also, like a LRK or a Yolha or something like that, that is running Aureus anyway. So it just doesn't really do anything in those cases too. So something that's decent to have, but I don't think will come up in like every single match. Moving on to now her ult shield. Remember when I went over her skills here, that this 15% is pre-skill ups, so it is 20 plus the 5, so it will be a 25% boost every time that she's attacked, well, once per turn at least, for both her and the back row, which does actually help her take turns a little bit faster and get her abilities up faster and stuff like that, and the cycle time bit faster, because like you saw, it is hard to get her on really fast speed with high ER and enough health and defense to make it actually not die in, like, you know, from a swift breeze or something like that. Now, the only real way I can see this being a huge factor, though, is against AoE teams. Abyssal Fiend, if they're on the enemy team, that's happening right there, you're probably losing in the first place. But in case you're just not, and you have Christy on the team, well, guess what? That Abyssal Fiend is sure going to feed your Christy and whatever unit you have in the back row. It's definitely going to do a lot of work there. Yep, definitely. Now going into the health rune, her S3, it does heal her, and will heal her a little bit more with this, which does add a little bit to her survivability, which is, you know, not that bad. Now, I do think that if this skill itself had a 1 less turn cooldown, it would be a lot better. So, I don't know, maybe that could happen. We also have a rune where if she does not have a debuff, she has a 100% chance to heal. To cast it by 5% every time it uses the S1. And this might make it so that you might want to run counter, although that's really hard to do, because I would say that it's really hard to get counter gear with also enough ER to make it worthwhile, but, you know, maybe some people will. And finally, you have, you also have a provoke chance bonus when you don't have a debuff either. I forgot to mention the other one too with the healing. There's also when you don't have a debuff. So this gives you a bonus 25% to provoke. And again, this is before the skill ups, so it goes to 100% provoke on the S1, which is very nice. It does have that annoying stipulation though, where you just can't have a debuff, which I guess for her just basically means all the time, most of the time. But, you know, there are still chances that you still get debuffed occasionally in today's meta, and with the way that ER versus effectiveness works. Now, out of curiosity, I did try some counter gear on her, and this is what I can get just, you know, randomly over here. These stats actually, compared to the ones on the left, are actually not that bad. I actually didn't really lose a ton from getting counter stat on her. I do think counter stat might be a pretty decent option if you do go on using her, as that healing every time she attacks with the S1 can really help her sustain quite a bit, as her overall bulk stats for a knight are kind of low. It's just like, how is she going to be used? Like right now, she's just used for her ER passive, and that's really it. And the SC definitely seems to be pushing her other part of her passive, which is her CR push a little bit more, because like I said, she gets no bonus ER, no bonus health, no bonus defense from her runes, and just effectiveness, which means she wants to take more turns to S1 more often in order to do other stuff too. Maybe the S1 also gave a CR push too. That would be a lot better. That would definitely make counter set though the best in slot, right? Definitely right there. Again, a bonus on your S3, like turn reduction would have been really good too, but of course we can't always have nice things. What is she going to be good against? I don't know. It's one of those things, like I said, I was half joking, but I guess something like a Pursuit Fiend, right? She AoEs a lot, right? She gets hit, she hits the Christy, and the Christy Sierra pushes with her S2, and then one in the back row, she takes more turns that way, and the unit in the back row can like kill or do things like that also, because she also gives the attack buff, which is also not a bad thing. Also, definitely increase the damage of the enemy team, of your team, kill the enemy team a little bit faster. It's one of those things where the way her skills work like this, she seems like a sustained character, but I'm not sure if that's the case. Like, she might be more of a, not an aggro character, but one that is trying to play like both sides of the fence. She's like to protect your character that is aiming to kill quickly. So if she needs to, she can have some sustain for longer fights, but I do think that her actual focus is going to be to help the unit in the back row not get blown out completely and just end the fight and kill their key carry as fast as possible. So I actually think that is what is going to be more likely with her versus her just slowing down the fights completely, because her base stats are just not good enough in order to do that right then. But in some cases, right, she is going to maybe slow down the fights a little bit. Now, as far as units that could be used with her in the back row, I think one of the key ones you can use will be Locust Bologna. She is at a speed where she's not base speed, it just has too fast, so you can use her. She does a lot of damage, and getting the bonus ER on her is actually pretty nice, and she also gives herself immunity too with the S1, and that adds up to be quite a bit of damage. But still, like any real like big DPS unit in the back is going to be decent. Even something like Urban Shadow Shrew could be okay in the back row. Actually, I would say a lot of bruiser units. You see my video before though on bruisers, you see why only certain ones right now are being played. But I definitely think that bruiser type units are the ones that are best paired with her in the back, as they have a combination of both the sustain and the damage needed to really take advantage of everything that she wants to do in her kit. Now, other units too to use with the team, obviously the video showed like May Chloe too. A lot of bonus ER here with her passive and Mr. Madra's staff. So basically giving like over 50 here, and then after Christie's, and then after the artifacts too, you're just giving the unit in the back row like 200 bonus effectiveness, right? That is a pretty big deal right there. Also, maybe something really janky too, like Abigail, where she gives her passive too to the back unit, so just there's a whole protect the back row type hyper carry type team. I said janky because it is a little bit of a meme, I would say. But maybe something that could work occasionally. Is going to be a viable main strategy? No, definitely not. But you might be able to sneak out some sneaky wins with it. Now, the big elephant in the room. Effectiveness. Effectiveness has such a head start over ER that it is unfair. Like my P-Flan. My P-Flan isn't even on a high effectiveness build, but with the bonus effectiveness she gets at 50%, at 257, she basically cancels out all of the ER the unit in the back row is getting, and more some. On top of that, she also has not a 0% chance to debuff my Christy too, which is pretty nuts. Also, ignore ER soul burns, like something like, say, a Bryceria. What's that gonna do? Ignore ER, and that pretty much kills Christy and basically her entire team, which is not good for her. And this is really the thing where units that rely on ER, now, unless you really catch your opponent by surprise and stuff like that, don't really work a ton of the time. At least like whole compositions designed around it, like what like Christy tend to be. And I'm trying, guys. I'm really trying to look at this positively. I gave an example on how she might be able to be used and how I think that she might have a small chance at doing something in the current meta. However, units like too, just like like DDR here, right? Where he gets bonus effectiveness too with his buff and stuff like that. My DDR isn't even that good, right? The DDRs that have much more effectiveness than I do, and they're just going to not care about that ER bonus that the unit in the back row gets. Like, it doesn't matter that Christy has a lot of ER. Now, if she had a cleanse on her S1, maybe, that would be pretty nuts, actually. I actually think that would make her, maybe a little bit too good. But it's just the way it is, right? Like, effectiveness is just so much better than ER that units like this are always a step behind in terms of like game power and everything like that. And of course, the other thing too is that she can still already pretty much do all of the things SC's giving her. It's just that SC's giving her some more effectiveness to provoke more stuff like that and a little more CR push. But if people weren't really using her like I suggested her SC is going to be used for in the future, I don't think it's actually going to be like that much better than it is right now, which is not very good. So I don't think that this is like the worst SC ever, but I do think that she could have used a little bit more, like maybe like 2 out of the 4 suggestion bonuses that I gave in the video, like those being like cleanse on the S1, something like if you use cooldown on the S3, something like I don't know, maybe like a bonus, more bonus stats and stuff like that also would have been decent to have too. Maybe like a built-in, okay, I almost said built-in counter. I don't want more units with built-in counter right now. But, those are the things that she needs to become more viable, at least in my opinion, on top of what her SC is giving her. But that's just my opinion on it. Anyway, do you agree or do you disagree? Leave it in the comments below. Anyway, I'm Wild Neptune. It's been a good one. Nep out.